Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome to watchuwant, and thanks for logging on. Happy Halloween to one and all. No tricks here. I'm bringing nothing but the treats. We're going to take a little tour of Switzerland. Three of the brands that are closest to my heart. I'm actually going to be showing you my three favorite brands tonight. You know one of them. The other two, we're going to give a little rundown with some key pieces. I also want to remind you that you are winning things tonight, regardless. Like I said, I have treats big and small. So I've got Rolex swag to dress you up for your masquerade. I've got everything from hats to ties and baubles in between. No candy bars. It's much better for your teeth. All right, guys. I see Eddie Landsberg, first and foremost proprietor of the watchuwant Facebook group. First in our chat, David Cahill, Edward Layden, Scott Hockenberry, Andrew Holt, Don Gizzle joining us from Germany. Hello, and thank you for staying up late. We've got scarily good watches tonight. We may as well start, as I always like to, with A. Now, I talk about watches that are near and dear to my heart, and of course, Jaeger LeCoultre is my favorite brand and the one I collect. Right now, I'm building a roadmap of my favorite Jaeger references, but a very close second in my heart and in my hand right now, a Lange und Söhne. Now, we had a friend, Chris, emailed us the other day. He's actually going to interview for a job with Lange, and he asked me a question about what key facts he should know. Well, what you should know, whether you're angling for a job or simply a collector, is that the Lange 1 is the Lange. This is the original size as unveiled in Dresden Castle in 1994, one of the first four Lange models. The Arcade, the Pour le Mérite Tourbillon, and the Saxonia were the others. This is the original 38.5 case, the icon, the only one of those watches that can really be considered a pillar of the company and still available. You can see on the back the L901 caliber. Now, it's beautifully executed with all of the traits of what would later be considered glasuta style. There really was no such thing in 1994, and a lot of it is evocative of the pocket watch era, but most of this, which you'll now see on the likes of Moritz Grossmann, Nomos, Glasuta Original, all of them essentially adopted the style from Lange. And as I said yesterday during our broadcast, it was Lange's standard of finishing, uncompromising and over the top in its detail, that largely forced Patek Philippe to reconsider how far it was willing to go to match the German upstart. So the features of German finish you can see are the three-quarter style bridge, the jewels set in chaton pocket watch style. Those are screw fixed and can be removed as modules. The three-quarter style bridge, like a pocket watch. You'll also note the fully engraved balance cock right here. Hand engraved, freehand. This is not guilloche. This is done with a hammer and a chisel, old school. And of course, the German silver, or the combination of nickel and copper that creates that gorgeous auburn hue. Now, of course, the platinum and the black dial is considered to be perhaps the most desirable of the white metals, but it's far more commonly seen than white gold. And for many, myself included, the white gold Lange 1 is the watch because it packs an unrivaled blue hue. This is a dial, and I should apply my polishing cloth, that combines white metal with gorgeous blue tones. A watch built over a decade ago that's nevertheless en vogue because time has caught up with this dial. Blue is now the thing, and the combination of vertical satin grain and the guilloche on the hours, minutes, and sub-seconds register with the exact same caliber and exact same standard of finish makes this a more appealing Lange 1 to me. Okay. Our friends in the chat joining us, Neuro is saying, I suppose the one is the closest Lange comes to having a flagship iconic piece. I always say the three pillars of Lange are the datograph, because that was the revolution watch in 1999 that really put Patek on notice, and it was also probably the most important new modern chronograph caliber, the Lange 1 of 1994 and the Zeitwerk of 2009 that showed us not just what Lange is, but what it can be. Incredibly progressive. And also, Andrew Holt notes, platinum is harder wearing than white gold. I will actually say that because white gold is 18 karat, that's 750, rather than the 950 of platinum, in practice, as a watch alloy, platinum is softer and more difficult to refinish because it is softer. Now from Lange, I'm going to step over to another A, and we are talking the A team tonight because I've got one of almost everything. But Audemars Piguet, we go from Saxony to the Vallée de Journe and Reverso. Now this is the City of Sails. It's the earliest of the Royal Oaks I've got on the table tonight. It's part of the now coveted and largely, I would say, resurgent 39mm family of Royal Oaks. Now, of course, today you can still get the jumbo in 39mm, but people love the chronographs, and it's easy to see why. They wear bigger than 39 on the wrist because of their roughly cushion-shaped profile. The hoods of the lugs are huge. The City of Sails, in tribute to the Alinghi competitor it was the Swiss entrant in the 31st America's Cup back in 2003. This was the City of Sails, named in honor, if we can get the case back, we can see the imagery of the vessels, named in honor of Auckland, New Zealand, the City of Sails. This was a tribute to Alinghi, the representative of the nation, and of course Alinghi the victor. This watch features limited edition graphics on the front, engraving on the back, 1,250 pieces made, and very versatile. Many people will tell you that they prefer to wear these watches on the diver style strap simply because you never have to worry about taking it off when it gets wet. If you're going to have a sports watch with screw down crowns, you may as well have the ability to take it into the water with a degree of freedom. Inside, Frederic Piguet caliber, quite slim in profile, beautifully made. It's everything the Royal Oak is, plus the relatively unusual combination of colors and Arabic numerals on a Royal Oak chronograph in the 39mm size. We have a question from David Cahill. Does that AP bezel look a little softer in its angles? That's a good question. I would say, all things considered, this is a watch that is pre-owned, and openly so, and has probably been refinished once or twice, so it's probably a little bit softer in absolute definition than, for instance, the next watch we're going to look at, which is the 26300 ST. Now this is a watch that had a relatively short production run, still 39mm, but much more modern in its specification with respect to the bracelet. This watch feels like a more modern Royal Oak. It feels like one from the early 2010s, which it is. The bracelet became sturdier and sturdier over time. This was kind of the last dance for the 39mm chronograph, and the spectacular combination of the silver, the orange, and the blue with the gloss finish on the dial makes this a special piece infrequently seen. It's one of the most wearable Royal Oak chronographs thanks to the 39mm, and one of the most distinctive thanks to this dial. An unusual combination and a little bit of a collector's piece. This is for those who love bright colors and who love exuberant personality in your watches but don't want to go offshore, so to speak. Now here's the thing, guys. Some people do want to go offshore, and for them we have options. I'm going to skip over the jumbo, which needs no introduction. We'll come back and talk a little bit about the Royal Oak offshore diver. Now this is part of the class of 2014. That was the year that the diver, like the rest of the 42s, got a display case back, and a good thing too, because the 3120 in-house caliber is worth a display case back and worth a look. But this is an interesting watch for fans of motorsports as well as water sports, and here's why. Although we see a good deal of Ferrari, Italian racing red, we see British racing green, German racing silver, and an occasional splash, because blue is the thing, of French racing blue. It's rare that we see United States racing colors. And traditionally, if you remember the chaparral racers of the 1960s, you'll know that American racing colors are white with blue accents, generally 1 or 2 thin blue stripes. So this is not just an AP diver of the highest order. This is also one for you American racing connoisseurs. Now, of course, you've got that gorgeous caliber in there, and this is really what you're paying for. A combination of a caliber that's hand-finished to a high horology standard, free-sprung, 60-hour power reserve, full balance bridge, 22-karat gold winding mass, engraved with the coats of arms of the Piguet and the Audemars family. And then you're getting a watch that features the same degree of metalwork that you'd get on a jumbo, any Royal Oak, hand-finished, gorgeous combination of character lines, and notice the continuity of the character line from the bezel, top, through its flank, the case flank, and the case back. Notice the hairline taper of the bevel along the lug hood disappearing through the case band only to re-emerge on the opposite side. This is gorgeous. This is time-consuming. This is what you get when you go with a high horology diver. You're still getting all the ISO standards, 6425 present and correct. Of course, that's the definition of a dive watch. 300 meters water resistant, internal rotating bezel, and I may as well unscrew the crown with Sorry guys about the glare right there, but I may as well unscrew the crown and show you what you can do with that bezel. Line up the index with the minute hand, and for me, that just makes more sense. If you want to time something, in the real world, we rarely time intervals of hours. So line it up with the minute hand. You've got an impromptu chronograph, easy to adjust, perfect for timing whatever you want. Fish tacos on the grill, intervals between quarters of a football game, the kids' time out, you're good to go. You don't just dive with these things, guys. If you stay high and dry, still a great watch. All right, so I understand we're going to be calling out our first winner for the night, working on that. While that's in progress, let's go from the beast back to beauty. This is to the Mr. Hyde of the Royal Oak Diver. We have Dr. Jekyll to continue our Halloween theme here. This is the 15202 ST. This is the post-2012 execution. You know the difference because it's lost the Arabics outboard of the hour indices. The AP logo is back at 6 o'clock, and I can't believe it wasn't always this way, but now we have the monotone date disc inset within the Petite Tapisserie dial. Another thing about that dial, this is the galvanized blue. It has a very high rejection rate, and it's generally reserved for marquee dealers and AP factory boutiques. So a rare case of a blue dial in a jumbo. This is arguably the ultimate Royal Oak jumbo, 39 millimeters with the galvanized blue dial. I should also mention that since 2012, AP makes these dials on their own pantograph machines, which is to say they're still used in progress when these are created. They still use the 19th century device that takes a large die and template and converts it in miniature, every bump, every undulation, every line, into the dial you see here. Still old school, now done in-house. Also done in-house, and this is particularly notable, guys, is the caliber 2121. Let me show you what's going on here. Caliber 2121, may as well rotate it over so you can see the Gyromax style balance, but this was designed as the JLC caliber 920 Bausch for Vacheron, Audemars, and Patek in 1967. Today, AP makes it in-house. They own the rights to it. Entirely hand-finished, it beats away at that nostalgic 19,800 vibration per hour beat rate that you hardly ever see anymore. The rotor actually goes all the way around the movement. It actually encircles the movement. Part of it's gold, part of it's steel. It's borne on 4 ruby rollers to keep it from banging against the base plate, allowing this watch to be ultra thin. That, as well as the hanging barrel, mean that this is a 3.05 millimeter caliber. Built old school, it's the highest degree of finish you can find in a standard Royal Oak, and yes, there's a big wait list for these. This one, pre-owned, however, can be owned immediately. All right, our first winner of the night, George Marquez of Hoboken, New Jersey, a longtime follower of the channel. George, we are dressing you for Halloween with a Rolex tie. A big green monster. This is a Rolex tie that goes well with anything. You can see the 5-point coronet in repetition. Beautiful, versatile, handsome, and I've said green is the next watch dial craze. You can get ahead of the trend with the company that's been green since forever. From me to you, my family to yours, my table to your suit. All right, George, congratulations. You've been with us forever in Hoboken. You're right up by 95. You're practically a neighbor now. All right. So Andrew Holt, it's Petite Grande Mega Tapisserie. All Royal Oak offshores are mega. We have a little discussion in the chat box about what's the Petite Tapisserie and what's the mega. There's the petite on the standard watch, like on that jumbo, that's petite. And then there's mega, which is a big blocky stamped type patisserie that's on the offshores. The smaller one is done with the pantograph, which means it's excruciating, old school, and beautiful. All right, rolling through to our next series of watches, I want to talk a little bit about independence. Now, of course, I recently returned with Josh Thanos of our sales team from FP Journe in Geneva, and we may as well start there with the boutique exclusive Nacre series. This is effectively a combination of a silver guilloche dial in the center and then a blue mother of pearl with those stylized Journe Arabic numerals and a printed railroad style track. This is a boutique exclusive along with the black label and the boutique exclusive series in rose gold with black dial. Now what makes these truly special is that dial, fabricated entirely in-house in Geneva at Journe's dial manufacturer, Cadronnier de Genève. This is the 40 millimeter, this is platinum, this is the Chronomètre Souverain, which means on the case back you find the 18 karat rose gold caliber 1304. Now the CS chronomètre souverain, came out in 2005. It's called a 1304 movement because it's 13 French lignes in diameter, and 04 was the year Journe started work on the movement. Like Lange, the year of inception is part of the reference. So 04 work starts, and what was wrought? Well, it's a chronometer grade caliber. Journe says it easily meets the ISO standard 3159 for chronometer, and it does that with twin mainspring barrels, more for their even torque release throughout the power reserve of 56 hours than for absolute longevity. Because they do have such a regular torque delivery, they allow this watch to function as a chronometer. They're also quite beautiful. You'll note the movement is not just technically accomplished with the free-sprung balance and the powerful twin barrel design. It's also self-consciously designed. You've got a rayon cut to the plate between the barrels and the balance. You've got a very fine engine-turned perlage, almost a micro-perlage below the balance. And then you've got Côte de Genève across the 18-karat gold bridges. Beautifully executed. It's designed to disguise the drivetrain. Note you can't see any part of the train connecting the balance to the power source. There's a gulf between them, big, broad, and beautiful like a pocket watch. Instead, the drivetrain is under the dial of the watch. Effectively a magic train. Choo-choo. And as we make our way through Genève by magic train, we go back in time, not to 2005, but to 1995, and the inception of a company known initially by its acronym SOGEM, later Roger Dubuis, founded with two primary model lines, Sympathy and Homage. It was the Sympathy that became the all-time great of Geneva high horology. This, the original design, discontinued rapidly because it required so much hand finishing of the case, the bezel, and the sapphire to make everything fit. That's to the advantage of the collector who finds the watch both extensively handmade and thus beautiful, and rare and thus collectible. The case design was actually by a valet de jeu case constructor who suggested the design to Roger Dubuis and his business partner Carlos Diaz. Now you can see a gorgeous hand-painted lacquer dial, and you can see the complexity of the finish on the case, vertical satin grain, big bold screws holding the strap to the soldered and double finished lugs, and then inside Roger Dubuis automatic caliber 57. It's both a Besançon observatory chronometer tested and certified at the observatory in France at Besançon. Cycling enthusiasts will recognize it as a summit finish in the Tour de France. So a chronometer and Geneva hallmark, so it bears the Poinçon de Genève and a French chronometer certification. It's based on the Longines L990 ultra thin, created in the late 70s and used to this day by Breguet, also used over the years by the likes of Vianney Halter and Ulysse Nardin. It has impeccable pedigree as a thin caliber, impeccable pedigree as a high horology caliber in this 37mm iteration. Now, of course, independent watchmakers are very hot today. Everyone's into it, and all over Switzerland, it's no longer just a Geneva phenomenon. So if we head out to Neuchâtel, we find an independent whose name is literally an anagram of Neuchâtel. Now, this is the Haute Lance HLQ07. Now, let me see if I've got the let me engage the time-setting function of the watch, because it is an absolute festival when you are setting this watch. Okay, I'm going to show you the signature of Haute Lance. Not so much the shaped case, because in 2009 they launched this, their first round caliber and round case. It's the combination of the push rod retrograde display for minutes and the jump hour display. Wonderfully animated. You get to see the machine within. It betrays its heart. So if you like to wear your watch's heart on your sleeve, Haute Lance is an excellent choice. Now, this is a titanium case and thus very light on the wrist, beautifully finished in the most traditional fashion on the back. This is a watch that satisfies both the right and the left sides of the brain. Beautiful and rare. I should also say this is a wonderful example of what pre-owned can do for you. If you want to get into independent horology, but you don't want to bear the hazard that sometimes comes with new-ish brands, Haute Lance has been around since 2004, so they're not that new. But this is a watch that originally retailed for $55,000, now available for just under $12,000. A great buy, whether you're into alternative time displays or simply independence. Awesome watch, very wearable thanks to the titanium, but they're not the only game in Neuchâtel if you want an independent. Perhaps the most impressive vertically integrated manufacturer outside of Rolex in Switzerland, Parmigiani Fleurier of Fleurier, one of the pioneers of independent horology, showed us a concept watch in 2011 called the 114. In 2013, it became the watch you see here, the Pantograph from the Oval family. I'm going to withdraw the crown now, and my poor nails aren't what they used to be. But the watch was designed after a Varden and Stedman retailed pocket watch from the 19th century. And you can see the core of that pocket watch recapitulated in beautiful hand-finished form on a wristwatch, right down to the form of the extensible hands that trace the arc of the dial. Even the cap at center is drawn from the pocket watch inspiration. The dial itself is a rich, glossy white lacquer that looks wet and deep and fluid, with hand-painted numerals and indices. There's a power reserve scale at 12 o'clock for the 8-day power reserve, and then there's a date with a quick change at 6 o'clock. On the case back, this is where Parmigiani really struts its stuff. Hand-finished caliber 111 8-day power reserve. There are no fewer than 8 interior angles. Those are the clefts between crests of the bridge. Everywhere you see a cleft between different arcs of the bridge, that's an interior angle. The single most challenging job for a finisseur, someone who finishes a watch component. It's the interior angle that defines the absolute apex of finishing. You'll see high horology movements with the Geneva hallmark that don't have one interior angle. Parmigiani, just an embarrassment of riches, giving you 8. Also note the seamless integration of bridge components. To create the look of a mono bridge, the tolerances are so close you can barely see the breaks, and there's a micro perlage on the base plate that's absolutely gorgeous. You can also note that the lugs themselves are soldered on and double finished to remove any evidence of the joint between the case and the lug. It's a big watch, but it's an easy watch to wear, and it's a spectacular watch to see. Oh, right. Do they use Hermes leathers? Aria is asking in our chat box. Yes, they do, because Hermes is a partial stakeholder. I want to say they own somewhere between 10 and 20% of Vaucher Manufacture, which is the movement manufacture branch of Parmigiani. Parmigiani is a little bit like an octopus, which has something like 3/5 of its neurons, its actual motor neurons, in its arms rather than its brain. So Parmigiani is like that, with the case maker here, the dial maker here, the movement maker here, final assembly there. It's dispersed but vertically integrated. Now I also have a question. This is from Pastor RANTJR. Hello, Tim. Hello from California, new subscriber. Rolex Explorer 1 or sub, no date. Do you think Rolex will bring back the Datejust turnograph? I think eventually. I don't think Rolex puts anything to bed forever. But I will say for now, the 2010, 2011 turnographs, the 116, 264 being my favorite, the last of the line, great buys. The Datejust to own, in my opinion, with blue dial. And also Explorer 1 or sub, no date. You do realize there have been a couple of Explorer 1s in the last few years. Stepped up to a 39mm case in 2010. 2016, the dial became fully loomed. I would say if you're going Explorer or sub, get the sub, no date. It's the icon, it's the one to own. The Explorer is a connoisseur's piece. The sub's a bit tougher, a bit more versatile, and for me, it just has more emotional appeal. So that's where I go. All right, so this is from David Cahill. I love the Chronomètre Bleu. Did you see our Chronomètre Souverain, David? We've got a combination of blue mother of pearl. We've got 40mm platinum case. This is actually less common than the Chronomètre Bleu, but I understand. The heart wants what the heart wants. All right, second winner, Jose Pablo. Welcome and congratulations. Jose Pablo Gutierrez Godoy. Your full name and your full address, Miami, Florida. One of my old locals. Believe me, every single day I'm gone, I miss it. I miss decorating the palm tree for the holidays, and I miss Halloween where it's always warm and you can sweat in your costume at night outdoors in October. So, Jose, you're winning something very cool. I hope you're a fan of fine pens as I am, because you're getting a Rolex high polish engraved retractable ballpoint pen. This is a fantastic little piece, whether you're a Rolex fan, a pen enthusiast, or simply a fan of high quality instruments. This is going to be your treat, no trick, this Halloween, and you didn't even have to knock on my door to get it. All right. Congratulations, Jose. That'll be out ASAP from my team here. Now, I have more questions coming here from Project saying Rolex puts nothing to bed forever. 6062 comeback, do I think they're going to make a water-resistant triple calendar? Never say never. Hey, it might even have a star dial. If you know your 6062s, you know that'd be pretty special. But I will continue my dance across the expanse of what Switzerland offers by circling back to Audemars Piguet and perhaps the greatest ever of the Pride of series. It's the 2010 Pride of Argentina. Using those, now let me grab my polishing cloth and shine that up. Argentina deserves better. This is a celebration of the bicentennial of Argentina's independence, issued in 2010 in 100 copies in titanium. It features those special non-loomed, satin-finished gold Arabic numerals that you'll also recognize from the LeBron, one of the absolute best of the Royal Oak Offshore Limited series, and unarguably the most beautiful of the Pride of National Special Editions. This one featuring gorgeous pomp and circumstance on the case back, distinctive of its nation, distinctive of its manufacturer, and below $30,000, I don't think you can get a better high horology monster watch for the wrist. They simply don't come any more attractive than this. And yes, it is the in-house caliber, the 3126 with the 3840 chronograph module. One of my favorite Royal Oak Offshores of all time. Rose gold on a blue dial with a titanium case, as good as it gets. Okay, so questions. Mads K asking, does anyone know if you can also win pieces if you do not live in America? We randomize our selections, so don't touch that dial. You certainly can. All right, now I'm going to take you back to where I come from and where it all started for me from a collecting standpoint, Jaeger LeCoultre, the Grande Maison of Le Sentier, Switzerland. And we're going to go big. We're not going home just yet, but it's the Amvox 3 GMT Tourbillon. Now, the Amvox series celebrated Jaeger LeCoultre's, mostly Jaeger's, relationship with Aston Martin, creator of dashboard instruments, clocks, tachometric scales, and of course speedometers, the tachometers inspiring the watch you see here, with the bottom 90 degrees uncalibrated like a dashboard instrument. You can see the rose gold plated bridge for the tourbillon just beneath my finger here. It is a GMT with a hidden second time zone. You can just see its skeletonized hand, and a sapphire AM/PM disc at 12 o'clock. The caliber 988 is beautifully finished, and it features the platinum iridium winding mass with carbon fiber spokes from the Extreme Lab 1 of 2007, porting over that technology to create the most efficient winding system Jaeger LeCoultre has ever built. It's a beautiful caliber, alternately black DLC and rose gold coated, and although you can't see it here, it is finished to a higher standard than your conventional Jaeger LeCoultre automatic with beautiful mirrored anglage, albeit razor thin. This is a watch to loop. It was also the first Jaeger LeCoultre ceramic round-cased watch, meaning it is very tough, difficult to scratch, with a gorgeous box section sapphire. It's beauty, it's the beast, it's a technical watch, it's a hand-finished watch. It's also a very practical watch, as it's essentially the tourbillon you can wear all the time because it is so robustly scratch-resistant. It even has a jump date, and I'll try to demonstrate this to good effect, but it has a jump date that launches itself in the gap from 31 to the 1st as we transit from Halloween through to the 1st of November. You can see how the jump date jumps across the span of the tourbillon cage in the course of one night. You can see the special mechanism that performs that immense leap in the course of a single nightfall. One of the coolest tourbillon watches of the 2000s. This was the 2008-2009 Amvox 3. Jump to 2016, and we have a little bit of an old friend, or should I say, a new version of an old friend, as this was the boutique Memovox that reprised the Snowdrop, the E877, not the case form, but the dial. The Snowdrop donated its face to a modern Memovox, so you get the modern caliber 956 with its beautiful sonorous hanging gong alarm, and you get the charm of my old Snowdrop, all in one, a limited series of 500 pieces. Both of these watches have won my heart. One of them has won my wrist. Will the other win yours? It's also on a gorgeous Trieste style, embossed calfskin black strap with a contrasting blue stitch. An absolute home run by Jaeger LeCoultre, and I appreciate that they brought back the Master Control medallion on the case back. Now, if you want a style, but let's say you're like our friend Jose, you live in Miami, where perhaps the New York aesthetic of black and blue dials doesn't quite cut it. How about chocolate and rose gold, one of the best JLCs of the 2000s? It's the Master Geographic. It's the Master Compressor Geographic, I should say. So 100 meters water resistant thanks to the 1/2 turn compressor crowns. Make it easy to use your watch whether your hands are wet, sweaty, or gloves. It also features, for those gloved hands, easy access to a travel time complication. So you set your reference city, and then as you travel, you change it. The second time zone jumps as you change your reference city. It's that simple. You'll also see shades of the 1968 Polaris in the fonts and the indices. Glorious rose gold trapeze hands at center. This is about as good as it gets. A watch that originally retailed for over $30,000. Handmade, beautiful, rare, redolent of the manufacturer Jaeger LeCoultre, everything from the movement to the case made in-house. Absolutely beautiful, and I'm happy to say that this watch can be yours for $14,500, less than half of the original price. And of course, we can't talk about Jaeger LeCoultre in the year 2017 without talking about the birthday boy, the landmark line that debuted in 2007 and immediately won Time Zone Watch of the Year. It's two watches in one case. It's the Duomet. The Jaeger LeCoultre Duomet chronograph, and I own one of them, so I'm a fan as well as an owner. Debuted in 2007, uniting two movements, one for the chronograph, one for time of day, in a single case. Twin mainspring barrels that hark back to an ebauche constructed by the legendary Audemars Piguet of the Vallée de Joux in the 1880s. Jaeger LeCoultre elaborated that ebauche to create a minute-repeating chronometer pocket watch, which in 2007 inspired the twin mainspring barrels, twin drivetrains, and single regulator of the Duomet line. It also features the same German silver nickel-copper alloy, unplated with a rich golden hue that you would have seen on that original minute-repeating chronometer pocket watch with the dual mainsprings and dual trains. Now you'll also note the column wheel and levers interacting at the bottom of the dial. It is a mono pusher, and I should mention that this dial variation with the rounded dome-style bezel debuted in 2013. Some love it, some prefer the solid dial. There's really no middle ground, but I should note that each one of these quarter elliptical cutouts contains an individual power reserve indicator for the twin mainspring barrels, which wind, and I'll show you how this works, by turning the crown in different directions. One ratchets while the other winds. Absolutely gorgeous. Proud to call myself a true believer and a member of the cult. All right. So our third winner for the night is Luis Navarrete. Congratulations, Luis. My apologies if I mangled your name in any way, but let me apologize, if necessary, by showing you what you've won. You have won a billet Rolex Swiss Army knife from Victorinox. That's right, you're getting a custom billet Rolex Swiss Army knife, all the essential functions, plus a Rolex green sleeve for those of you who bleed green, the ideal companion to this keychain style Rolex custom Swiss Army knife. And you'll be getting it in a little Rolex box, custom made just for the purpose. My folks will have that out soon. You're also asking, what do I think of the JLC Gentilhomme? It is a small, round, golden watch from the 1990s, for those of you who are watching. I think it's the kind of watch that you love-hate based on its sheer simplicity and size. Being as small as it is, and I want to say it's about 34, 35 millimeters, you're either going to be a strict traditionalist who wants a simple and discreetly sized watch, or you're going to think it's too small dial and it's too plain. There's no in between, so this is where you really have to let your personal opinion and your heart be your guide. Mads K asks, Tim, which one of the JLCs is your favorite? I would have to say if I could only go down to one, if I could only keep one, it would be between my tourbillon, my Reverso Platinum No. 2 tourbillon, and my Duomet chronograph in white gold. And I would probably use the excuse that I've got two wrists so I can have two watches minimum, but if I had to chop off a wrist Jamie Lannister style and choose just one, I would say probably the Platinum No. 2 tourbillon. To me, that is the ultimate Reverso, the greatest ever made, and the one watch that would be my grail in any assortment. All right, guys, and since we're talking about the Reverso, I'm counting down the best Reversos on the table. This is going to be the end of the night, and I'm going to leave you with a monstrous Reverso for Halloween. Not just a monster, I'm leaving you with a Stay Puft Marshmallow Man-sized tribute to everything the Reverso is and can be. A watch that was an ultimate, a first, an absolute, and still a riot on the wrist, if you can ship it. Let's start. All right, guys, what is effectively the 80th anniversary Reverso. It is the Grand Reverso Ultra Thin Tribute to 1931. This watch came out in 2011. It's much bigger than the watch it references, but it references that watch accurately. The first Reverso used a French-made case designed by a subcontractor to Jaeger. LeCoultre subcontracted to Vannes to supply their shaped caliber 64, so the first Reverso was not a LeCoultre in any strict sense. It was assembled by them, but designed with its components made elsewhere. It featured only the name Reverso on the dial, and thus this watch is very true to its source material. Luminescent, it has a little bit of patina style to its dart style indices, gorgeous Art Deco railroad track outboard with the wonderful slash cut of the gadrons across the case, in tension with the vertical sweep. Of course, it also features the rotating case, and it is tabula rasa for your customization and my fingerprints. But rest assured, those come off. Hopefully, your customized engraving with lacquer or enamel will not. 822 manufacturer shaped caliber inside. Those days of the Tavannes calibers are long gone. This was the watch that marked 80 years of the Reverso. A special watch, and with only 7.3 millimeters thick, very, very slim on the wrist. But it's not the ultimate Reverso. It's not even the ultimate black-dialed Reverso on the table tonight, because I have the famed Sun Moon. This is a model that came out in 2009. There were three versions: rose gold with silver, platinum with a ruthenium dial, and white gold with a black lacquered dial featuring hand-painted floral Breguet numerals. A very special watch with power reserve, small seconds, moon phase, and a day-night. It's also luminescent on the sword-style hands at center, so it's got a measure of versatility. It's also one of precious few Grand Tie cased Reversos. That's right, it's a white gold Grand Tie case to feature a display case back. And you're looking at the manufacturer caliber 823. Simply finished, but beautifully finished. It's an execution with a shaped and sized caliber for the case, the mark of a true manufacturer, and in my opinion, of the three versions of this watch, which started in 2009 and was phased out by 2005, this is the one to own and the most beautiful, hand-painted dial. Okay, well, we've got another tribute to 1931 on the table, but this one came out in 2012, not 2011. Not only did it surpass the tribute to 1931 from 2011, it surpassed the red lacquered watch from the Jaeger LeCoultre Heritage Gallery that inspired it. It's the Reverso Rouge, a limited series. No one really knows the number made, but it's somewhere between 300 and 500 on good account. Ultra slim, like the 1931, only 7.3 millimeters thick. It's also beautifully appointed. Its dial is a rich lacquer that looks like a red gloss enamel. It looks permanently wet. It looks like you could stick your finger deep into it. And unlike the 1931, the 80th anniversary watch, this one features white gold applied indices, diamond polished, not printed, the same treatment on the hands at center, faceted, broadsword style, a richly appointed dial, an incredibly thin case, an all-time great. This is one of the few modern steel Reversos that trades for more pre-owned than it's sold for new. You gotta wonder how I top that. Well, I top it with another Grand Taille case, and rather than a red dial, I'm going with red gold. But I'm not just going with a dial. I'd actually say this watch is probably the best bang for your buck in high horology. In terms of hand finishing, for the money, you cannot do better than this roughly $13,000 watch. You cannot do better, period. It starts with the nomenclature Art Deco, and by all accounts, the dial is that. Beautiful vertical striation, satin finish to the main dial, dimple style perimeter. You can see it almost has a futurist aesthetic, the movement that preceded Art Deco, all of a machine language. It features strong linear geometries, sharp points. There's visual tension outboard and then inboard, that wonderful undulating rose lathe guilloche cut under the Dauphine style hands. 900 of these were made in rose gold. 200 were made in white gold. All of this over a 10-year span between roughly 1992 and 2002. But the reason so few were made is the case back, where we go from Art Deco to Art Nouveau. Floral, biomorphic, beautiful freehand engraving of a skeletonized caliber 822. Here it becomes the 822 SQ, skeletonized and engraved. It's a maze of undulating lines, of fluid forms, no two exactly alike. That's what you get from freehand engraving. Beautiful kiln-fired cobalt blue screws, violet pivot jewels, rose red bridges, and golden wheels. With a few silver touches, you'll even note that the mainspring barrel has been skeletonized with spokes in the form of the corporate JL logo. In terms of high horology hand finish, guys, this is Olympus. It doesn't get any better at any price. You gotta be wondering, what do I have to top that? Well, no tricks, all treats. I promised you a monster, and I also promised you handouts. So, bonus round. Anthony Brandon Jr. of Apple Valley, California, you are walking away with a capstone for your head. A Rolex cap to keep you warm this fall. On your way to Baselworld, let me tell you, it's darn cold in the spring. You're going to want something to keep yourself warm. And if you bleed green, especially between your ears, I've got the perfect solution. This is a Rolex cap, beautifully executed, whether golfing, sailing, or simply styling. My favorite color, many's favorite brand. The Giant of Geneva, now on your head. Just don't let it go to your head. Okay, congratulations, Anthony. Well, I promised you a monster. And I promised you a succession of Reversos, each more spectacular than the last. And believe me, why go with 2 dials when you can have 3? It's the Reverso Grand Complication à Triptyque, the 2006 blockbuster. It was the first ever Reverso Grand Complication. Can you zoom the camera out because it doesn't fit in the frame? Thanks, guys. Immense, over 2 inches lug to lug, nearly a pound of platinum on your wrist, 75 pieces made in this iteration. The case features a lock on its profile so it doesn't fly open. It features a tourbillon with an ellipsisometer synthetic silicon escapement used on only a handful of JLC watches. The ellipsisometer escapement is only used on the Triptyque, the synthetics rarely seen on other Grand Complications. It features a binary quantized power reserve, so it jumps from 0 to 1 to 2 and back with nothing in between. There's a 24-hour scale for the time at center, turn it over, and the fun continues. Now we have sidereal time, a zodiac calendar, a star chart, a 24-hour hand, equation of time. It also features sunrise and sunset for Hong Kong. How do I know? Because that is where it was originally cammed and delivered. Now, don't go away. Don't touch that dial, because I've got another one. Not only civil time, not only sidereal time, perpetual time. This is not the Kurt Claus system. This is an entirely in-house JLC calendar execution. Moon phase, leap year, day, date, and month. And the system has to be closed at midnight because through this actuator in the carriage, the movement actually indexes the perpetual calendar precisely at midnight. 3 dials, 1 watch, a pound of platinum, a grand complication, 19 individual complications in this watch, including a few that aren't even advertised. In terms of Reversos and monster watches, this thing has me scared silly. And I have to say, given the size of this thing on the wrist, it would be silly of me to wear it, but what a trophy. That's what they call an exit watch, folks. Whether you're a collector or a broadcaster, I want to thank you for joining me tonight. I'm making my exit. This is Watch You Want. Happy Halloween. They're the Amigos, and thanks for logging on. Trick or treat, guys. Stay safe. Have fun.